I got an email the other day from an agent that wanted some advice on setting up a direct mail lead program and more specifically developing kind of a geographic targeting strategy on how to get the most out of his or her direct mail campaign. So the purpose of this video today really is to give you my tools that I give my agents to determining which areas for final expense direct mail is considered best. So what I'm about to describe to you isn't an exact science. It's kind of an art plus a science to an extent. And the purpose of this really is to help you identify which zip codes or counties when you're doing a direct mail are going to give, in my opinion, the best overall success or opportunity for success, simply because there are areas that you absolutely don't want to target final expense into. And I'm going to tell you what those are as we go through this. But this is going to be a really important training if you're going to do direct mail and you really want to know more about what steps you need to take to do the best job you can targeting the right areas for final expense. I'm Dave Duford. I own Duford Insurance Group. Train agents nationally to sell final expense, Medicare and annuities, over the phone, face-to-face. I recruit them too. If you want to learn more about how that works in my agency, there's links above and below. It should take you to the website. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here is sharing with you on my screen a couple of tools right away that's going to help you better understand exactly what we're here to do, which is, okay, what are our best options for determining the best areas for direct mail. So you should see on the screen this thing. Okay, perfect. So the first website is zipwho.com. The second website is zipmap.net. And then the third website, and we'll explain this in a minute, is leads.dataaxleusa.com/US businesses list. Might just be that. Take that out. There we go. Well, we'll figure it out here in a minute. So let's start here with zipwho.com. So zipwho.com is where we're going to put our zip codes in to get some basic demographic information about the markets that we're targeting. Zipmap.net is also going to help us determine kind of which zip codes are in the areas we're thinking about targeting. And the reason we're doing this is because there's simply some zip codes that are no good that you should never, ever dream about dropping any kind of direct mail in because, yeah, you'll get responses, but the quality of the responses ain't going to be so good. So if we go down to where I live, I'll kind of take you through how I would strategize working in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I work. So as you can see on the screen here, zipmap.com shows you with a Google map with the zip maps overlaid where the zip codes are for geographically speaking. And if we zoom in, you might see some that you don't see elsewhere. So for example, I am going to start to look geographically at different zip codes to help me determine what zips I would target and which ones I wouldn't. Now, I do want to come on the screen here and kind of share this with you here before we go any further. The key thing with targeting for final expense, I can't be any more clear than this, is final expense is about targeting poor people. It's not about targeting middle income. It's certainly not wealthy income. Because what you're going to have happen is you're going to have people in those groups that respond back to these leads, but they don't have a need or really a desire to buy insurance. And for many people who do this, it's a huge pain. It's a struggle. It's very frustrating. And my advice is just to best avoid it. Where you need to sell final expenses wherever there's any poverty, lower income, and just people who are getting by month to month on a paycheck. Now, the type of income filters we'll talk about in a minute are going to be indicative of an area to a certain extent. They're not perfect, and the data we're using is a little bit out of date. Census 2020 data should be coming out soon, and that should be updated. But generally speaking, I like to target areas that are under 50,000 average income. I don't like targeting areas that are over 60,000. That may change if you're in a high household income area like California or some parts of the Northeast for sure. But that's going to be kind of my main guideline about, what areas to avoid zip code wise and which ones to stay away from. I don't care how low an income is. That doesn't matter to me. It actually probably is a good thing because the people who have lower incomes need this, right? And I don't care about things like age because it doesn't matter if it's a young area. There's going to be older people there as well, as long as the economics fit too. So you can real nerd out on this stuff if you really want to, but I don't recommend it kind of just use some broad brush strokes here, with the big one being I want to target people who are working class and lower, not higher than that. They're definitely not middle income and up, okay? So again, back to the screen here. And using what I've just described here, I'm going to give you some advice on kind of how I do this. So let's start with 37421. So this is a zip code. It's in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're going to take this zip code. We're going to go into zipwho.com, 37421, hit basic search, and then what's going to pump out here is going to be some basic info. And again, this is stuff that's based off of more or less 2010 census data. This probably, so you got to keep all this stuff in perspective. This is probably off by a little bit, all right? So reading through this, knowing Tennessee, this is a very middle class type of community. It's got a 46,000 average income. I'm not too hot on this particular income personally. I probably would not drop this area. Another thing that you need to be aware of too, and this is the other thing that you have to understand, we're looking at data here, but data doesn't always reflect the spirit or the area or zip code that you're targeting. So I think it's valuable to more or less not just trust the data, but to go experience it. One thing I used to say a lot was for agents, if you're thinking about targeting an area, just drive through it, see what it's like. Does it match up with what the data suggests? And there's going to be some kind of melding in the middle of what this data shows us versus what actually boots on the ground shows. Okay, so it's really a good idea to do both. And why it's so important is you can put out tens of thousands of dollars, if or even thousands of dollars in direct mail, and if you don't do this basic stuff, you could target the wrong areas and be in a world of hurt financially. Okay, and we don't want that, right? All right, so back to the screen here. So we don't want 37421. Let's look at 37411. Okay, so I'm going to pull that back up here. 37411. This shows up, and we get a medium income of $33,782. And you can hear in my tone of voice, I'm excited. That is an income that is well within the range that we want to see. Okay. And I've driven through, this is Brainerd. I've driven through Brainerd enough to, this is a working class zip code. This is perfect. Okay. This isn't a zip code that's just uber wealthy or anything like that. This is a zip code that is reflective of the kind of client that we want to sell final expense to. Likewise, let's take it a step further. Let's take a look at Lookout Mountain. What zip code is this? 37350. So if we go here, we put in 37350, put in basic search. $100,000? Hell, I ain't going there. So I never would drop mail in a median income of six figures. It's suicide, ladies and gentlemen. Why would you want to do something like that? So I would not go 37350. I would exclude it from my mail drop. Okay. The last thing on here I mentioned briefly, and I'm not going to do much with this because I might be at the slightly wrong page, but it is the right website, is this. Sometimes you need to do some counts, but a lot of these mail houses will do counts for you. Counts meaning how many people are in the age range of 50 to 85 or whatever the mailing criteria are. That's going to tell you a good idea of how many zip codes or how many counties you need in order to establish kind of an idea of what it is that you're targeting. So, I would use these tactics to first find out what the zip codes are in your area, and then to basically test them against some kind of data that's somewhat up to date to give you an idea of ultimately the zip is worth working or it's worth passing. And don't over or underestimate the need to go out there and see where it is that you're targeting. Again, I visually want to go to neighborhoods that are working class, lower middle class at top. And I want to stay away from areas that are like gated communities, McMansions, middle income and up. It's just not worth it as a final expense agent. And it's absolutely, this is a huge investment of your time that will pay off dividends. Speaking of which, be careful like with the gated community stuff. This is going to be more relevant in more metro areas. You want to make sure your communities, you can door knock them, but there's some places like Southeast Florida is bad about it. There's lots of gated condos and it's hard to get in. So make sure to account for that as well. use these tools. They really help me out. They help me out. They've helped tons of agents out. They should give you some advice and ideas on where to go. And if you got any questions about this process of searching out, what zip codes and area codes are best, zip codes and counties, leave a message. I'll be happy to help you out. I hope it gives you some perspective on what you need to do to be successful. Take care, and thanks a lot for watching. Bye.